The R32 Skyline's OEM glowing badge for the rear bumper. How on earth is this even a factory original Nissan part? Welcome to another episode of JDM Archives, where if you're a fan of the cool, the rare, the weird, and the just plain useless, you've come to the right place. Yes, that's a JDM factory optional Hello Kitty clock. Part number 7 in the countdown. The rear finisher. I found this part while searching for a subscriber who commented saying they had factory gold badging on their R32. Kind of like the R34 GTR's dress-up package. I'd never heard of it, especially not on a GTR. I found them and then spotted these electroluminescent lights next to it. Nissan calls it the rear finisher, which literally glows as an electroluminescent panel green and blue badge in the letter shapes of Skyline, as part of the Nissan Genuine Parts, Skyline optional parts catalogue for the R32, sports cruising, hard image. And I'll translate the text in a moment, but I just love the slogans they come up with in these old brochures. Like this page we are looking at, touch my hearts, hard image. Sounds like an oxymoron with contradicting statements. It just couldn't be any more Japanese 80s, 90s if it tried. And I feel like this is a really suitable time to show one of the R32 ads. And I'm gonna have to turn the music down, sadly. And also cut out about 20 seconds worth of cinematic shots.
I love you, Skyline.
Oh my gosh, so good. It's more of a punchline than a catchphrase. Anyway, back to the video. So why does electroluminosity, or EL, look different to normal traditional light globes? Well, kind of like neons, the whole area illuminates glowing light as opposed to one direct source like a light bulb. This gives, in my opinion, a way softer, more visually pleasing glow for night cruisers. I mean, I'm no expert on this, I just read Japanese brochures and auctions. So it must be operated off a light switch, hence the electro component of electroluminosity. But while researching this, I saw that people have been using EL as paint in more modern mods. Like check out this 350Z with its Tron inspired EL paint job. My favourite part is how you can just have a semi-normal paint job without anyone knowing, unless you want people to know. I like the Skyline glow effect because it's subtle yet really obvious. It's like Nissan's way of saying, hey, you're driving behind a legend. So let's see what you make of it translated. Rear finisher for a two-door sports coupe, available in each colour, 33,000 yen. The rear finisher uses EL material, causing the Skyline lettering to glow blue-green at night in synchronisation with the light switch. It's an accent item for the rear view that significantly enhances visibility for following vehicles. Nissan. I like how Nissan tries to get it over the legality line by saying it improves visibility, as if it makes the car safer. So why do I keep saying electroluminescent parts? Emphasis on the plural, because there's actually 2 parts within the brochure sold separately with individual part numbers. This is potentially the coolest window louvers you could ever buy. This comes as the second part to the Nissan Genuine Parts brochure, as window louvers with EL Skyline letters for the side profile of the car. So what does this actually say? Side window louvers for two-door sports coupe, 22,000 yen. These louvers equipped with EL illumination enhance the look of the side windows when combined with the rear finisher. They significantly enhance the atmosphere during nighttime cruising. Nissan. I thought the RX-7's optional rear window louvers from the last video were retro. These are next level. So I couldn't find any for sale in the Japanese auctions, as you can imagine. But I did find a Reddit post of someone who purchased it for $3,000 a year ago. And just a post-production extra in here, right before releasing this video, this popped up in the Japanese auctions. They must have offered it OEM on the R33 as well. Can anyone verify that? I haven't been able to find it in any of the brochures yet, but the seller lists this as rare, genuine, optional extra as electroluminescent for the R33 Skyline, and not the aftermarket LED ones that people put in, which still do look really good, mind you. They want a buyout price of 140,000 yen, and the seller says that it's a blue-green colour. Anyway, back to the video. While I couldn't find any other manufacturers looking at EL, Mitsubishi, the Evo 10 in JDM spec, I noticed surprisingly has a glow coming from the front grille. It's LED lighting in the aerodynamic accessories section, described as illumination for the front grille. I couldn't miss the opportunity to include it with the Skyline electroluminescent glow. It translates as grille and bumper illumination, 30,000 yen. Works in conjunction with the small lights to illuminate the grille opening and the central opening of the front bumper with blue LED illumination. A pretty neat part for the post-neon era, and definitely worth including in the video. Does it make it legal if it's factory? Is that argument even worth the hassle with a police officer? Well, you can turn it off, which conceals it. It's an epic factory option, so the pros far outweigh the negatives. So I'm knocking it one spot down from S tier to A tier. And I'm also going to include on the list, but put it separate, OEM LEDs. And I think it needs to be one spot lower than any kind of OEM glow. It does look really good on the Evo though. The TRD Sports wheel, part number 6. Toyota made some really cool retro wheels in the 90s, well pretty much every era actually. As Toyota's main in-house performance division, TRD, it's hard to pick which ones are actually my favourite because there is so many good wheels from TRD. But the wheels I picked for this video are from the 1999 Toyota Motorsports Racing Development All Parts Catalogue Volume 8. A bit of a mouthful, but showcased on the JZX100 TRD version here. Kind of like Nismo did for Nissan, they pretty much made TRD models, parts and accessories for everything. You can see different front bumper, side skirt, front grille, adjustable wing, Toyota racing seats in here, a whole bunch of stuff I'll cover in a different video when I get to it. Don't have to subscribe, but if you do want to, the subscribe button is down here if you like. But the TRD mods make the car look so good. I feel like everyone loves a good chaser, but the wheels are what I want to focus on. So these 4, we have the TRD Sports here in both silver and bronze. They came in 18-inch, 9.5-inch wide, 5-spoke design, TRD Sports logo. Then we have the 2-piece versions, the T2s, in 17-inch, 10-inch wide, and then the TRD Sports Forged Mags, which as the name sounds, is the 18-inch forged magnesium option that straight away remind me of Mazda's forged Le Mans wheels we covered in the last video, or the forged magnesium Tommy Kaira Pro Rs we covered in my Tommy Kaira playlist on my channel. And what's cool about the sports wheels is they came as an option on pretty much all of Toyota's JDM icons. Just a quick browse through the catalogue for the wheels and I straight away found them on the 3000 GT Supra and the Artesia, a whole range of other cars as well. And I did find them for sale in the Japanese auctions, but I'll come back to that in a moment. So how much do these cost from brand new? Well, it depends on which wheel you're looking at, obviously. So this kanji up here means price. So this column shows the price for all the different models in yen. So looking at the cheapest first, the 2-piece T2s, you're looking at about 60,000 yen per wheel. I think they sell it per wheel because there's nothing stopping you buying the spare as a TRD as well. It makes no mention of it being per wheel or full set, so I think it's a safe assumption to assume that it's per wheel. And that's the TRD MR2 pictured there amongst the different factory optional bracing. So around $400 US per rim back in the late 90s. And pretty similar cost, or slightly more expensive, is the Sports Bronze and Silver. And I'm not sure if I mentioned it earlier, these models are made of aluminium, so the forged mags had a huge price jump. As you can imagine, being made of the same material as Formula 1 wheels, forged magnesium, 135,000 yen per wheel, or about $850 US all the way back in 1999. So you're probably thinking, how much do these cost now at current time? Let's look at the Japanese auctions. And don't get too excited, they probably won't cost the same as they did in the 90s. So as you can imagine, there was no forged magnesium ones that I could find for auction. I guess they're just too rare and probably only pop up every so often, but I did find a set of 4 wheels for the TRD Sports in silver. So looking at the set here, they came as 18s at the back and 17s at the front. They want 200,000 yen as buyout price, which would be about $1,250 US, which is surprisingly a pretty fair price in my opinion. You still have taxes and shipping to cover. As you can imagine, that'd be a decent amount being wheels, but less cost than I thought it would be. I feel like these will be classic owner problem wheels, where there's enough imperfections that every time you clean the wheels, you notice everything wrong with them. But every time you bump into someone else, they love them because they look at them from a distance. So afterwards I found these perfect condition later gen bronze T3s, which is a forged monoblock raised branded TRD wheel that we haven't covered yet. So this is your generation after the ones we were just looking at. I'll cover these in more detail in another video for sure. Look at the condition. I really like how the forged monoblock made in Japan is just straight in your face. These are 500,000 yen, or well over $3,000 US. But what's interesting about these is they are only 14-inch for the MR2 and Vitz, with the Vitz being the JDM Echo and Yaris, depending on your region. It's actually surprising how many mods they have for that car. I think they're quite popular in Japan, and that assumption is just purely coming from how many pages are dedicated to that car in all of their brochures. Even a TRD Toyota Vitz Racing League. I assume the Spec 2 is referring to them being the smaller versions, and you can pick the difference because they are wider through the spoke section here than the 18-inch ones I found for auction, which are here in silver. So these again are your forged monoblock raised T3s. Great wheels. Toyota featured these more through the early 2000s than the 90s. And this center cap with the engraved gold actually had 2 colors that you can see here pulled from the 2002 Streets Parts catalog. Again, the finishing touches whenever Ray's collaborated with other JDM brands is just nuts. So where do they fit into the tiers? I mean, they're rare, they're memorable, they're decent value, even in the current market. I don't think I like them as much as the forged monoblock Mazda Speeds from the last episode, but I'm not sure if that's the brochure quality difference selling me the wheels better by Mazda. Like, I love this Le Mans shot, but TRD, does it get any better than that? I think the only spot these belong is S tier. Part number 5, the Honda City's collapsible scooter that folds and packs up into luggage to fit into the trunk of the car. The Motocompto. A UK pop band. Madness. This is such a weird advertising. The Honda City Motocompto. Where to even begin on this? A 2.5 horsepower, 49cc, 2-stroke, mini scooter that fits in your 1980s Honda City trunk, standing at just over 1.5 feet tall. In the early 1980s, Honda wanted to target a younger potential buyer, and along came the Honda City and City R, the performance model. No turbocharged model was even planned, until Honda's son, the founder of Mugen, Hirotoshi Honda, who I'm sure you remember from some of my other videos, got his hands on the City. Long before the Honda Civic Type R took the world by storm, there was the Bulldog. The Honda City Turbo 2, a high-performance variant of the original Honda City. The Bulldog featured new styling, a wider track and flared fenders, electronic fuel injection, intercooler, modified intake manifold, exhaust, raising the horsepower from the lowest trim, which was about 50 horsepower, to in the late model City Turbo 2s, 110 horsepower, which is a massive jump in performance when you consider the size, age and weight of the car. But the most notable performance mod, as the name City Turbo gives it away, a turbo, which if you think about it, before the new Honda Civic Type R, a turbo in a Honda didn't really happen. So I just wanted to come back to this. Yep, this is the original Honda City Bulldog commercial. Anime style sound effects. And there's the Honda City's wide body kit. I think it might even be clay animation, it's that old. Or flared guards and ridiculous unnecessary dramatic walk, why not? I love these old JDM TV commercials. So where does the Motocompto fit into this? As an OEM optional extra or also standalone purchase. So this was designed as a tight compact fit into the trunk of the Honda City, as its design was entirely focused around the concept of fitting it into the trunk of the car. And what's cool about this is everything collapses down. The seat pushes inwards, the handlebars wind to loosen and then pivot below the lockable cover, folding down until it's practically a heavy suitcase. It was part of Honda's innovative push in the small car segment, and even the Motocompto alone remains a cult classic amongst JDM enthusiasts. While it doesn't technically fit the definition of a Kei car, JDM compact car culture is so mad about this thing that people have done entire reviews and professionally edited videos just on the Motocompto. My favourite comment I came across, I'm low-key mad they didn't call it the scooter case. 9,000 likes. The advertising was crazy on this thing, like a girl at the beach with a polka-dotted beach ball and tent, an athlete about to javelin a bird. I don't even know what's going on here. And even the aerodynamic wind tunnel shot is displayed as rainbows. And what's pretty wild is the new generation of make everything electric. Honda has actually decided to revive this design in the new Honda Civic with a new e-scooter Motocompto. Same kind of idea, looks like a suitcase, then the wheels, handlebars, seat fold out. Check your battery on your phone as Honda advertises. With the new branding, Honda Motocompacto. And what did it cost back in the 80s? 80,000 yen, which is $500, which doesn't really mean anything at all being 40 years ago. But if you put that number through an inflation calculator, that's $1,700 in today's money, which gives you some context. So what colors were they made in? Well, this is the cool thing. They were really well coordinated with the paint codes of the color schemes of the Honda City. Looking at this Bulldog here, and it fits perfectly into the vibe with the opposite decal color coordination, like pinstriping, both decal fonts are similar. Even the circle headlights versus the square headlight of the Motocompto matches. So colours, Caribbean red, Daisy yellow, and Shetland white. I guess like the pony, which is kind of funny. These were your 3 options. But there's heaps more colours getting around that looks original and matches the 80s vibe. So there could have been an evolution in the OEM colours, not sure or confirmed, but to be honest it's not a very large area to respray into cool designs, but I'll come back to the auctions in a moment because there's a really good variety. So production numbers are actually recorded on this, which is hard to believe, and there's 53,000 of them made, so not exactly rare. I think despite the lack of rarity, it's off the charts in memorability. You're never forgetting it. Does it improve performance? Well, yeah, actually it does. If you're trying to get to the hot dog stand quicker at a car festival, you're locked in, can't drive the car, whip out the scoot case and go ham. The funny part is, this is kind of how the advertising went. The gangs got their Honda scooters, matching helmets, Coca-Colas in hand for some extra product placement cash. The pretty girl. The whole scene is being painted here by Honda. And why is there a payphone on the tree? And I just want to note the sick carry case here as well in blue. And then this bloke here can't get enough of the hamburgers. Anyway, so this has to be S tier. This is as bizarre as it gets. So the auctions. There are plenty to choose from that are for sale. And there's plenty more spare parts available, which is always a bonus. So the first one here is 500,000 yen, which is $3,200 US in Caribbean red. Pictures are awful. So that gives you a gauge of around the 3K mark, which seems to be pretty consistent over the OEM models. A full custom design, pickup only. Is that an Alcantara seat? I'm really liking the excessive chrome. Who would have thought purple, yellow, blue and white would go together? But it kind of works. Is that carbon fiber? I would probably laugh at this if I saw it in real life, but secretly be jealous. And this last one I had to put in. It's a body kit for the Motocompo. Obviously not original, but I just think it's cool that people are making body kits for it. No price on it because the seller sells the parts individually to convert over to this body. But what is going on here? How's the wing? Part number 4. Now let's talk practicality, or lack thereof. This wasn't a cheap option back in the day, and finding one in good condition now is nearly impossible. Mitsubishi really looked at the Evo 6 and thought, you know what this car needs? Knee protection. Not more power, not better back seats, not a decently sized cup holder, knee pads. And not just any knee pads, Ralliart branded knee guard pads. Because if you're gonna slam your knees into the dashboard while taking a corner at full send, you should at least do it in style. These were a Mitsubishi Ralliart factory option, and someone somewhere walked into a Mitsubishi dealership and said, I'd like to spend extra money to protect my knees from my own driving. And Mitsubishi said, absolutely, we have just the product for you. Well, not quite, but that's how I like to imagine it. They attached to the lower part of the center console and the door card. Were they necessary? Arguably, no. The Evo 6 is basically a road legal rally car, and rally drivers in particular, Tommy Mäkinen, we know how they were marketing this car. But the fact that Mitsubishi thought this is an essential factory option to fully brand with our own tuning division, instead of, say, a branded gear knob or better sound insulation, well, they did make a seriously cool gear knob as well, out of carbon fiber and steel, but I'll come back to that. And on the topic of sound insulation, the Evo 6's rival, the version 6, WRX STI Type R, has the sound dampening removed as OEM to save weight from factory. Peak 90s JDM logic. The pads are actually really annoying too. I have them on my 34, but Nissan didn't brand them. And being 6'1", they are regularly in the way. But the same type of person who makes a channel like this is the same type of person that can't bring themselves to ditch an OEM option. So they live there. I don't like them, but they live there. Over time, I imagine many of these get worn out, and since it's a niche item, finding one or a set would be very difficult. And let's be real, how many of these were actually purchased from factory, and how many of those didn't get ripped off and binned? That seems to drive JDM enthusiasts like myself to spend too much, which I'll get into. From new, costing $150 US for the set over 25 years ago, with an additional $50 US to have Mitsubishi fit them for you. So coming out of the factory, that's $200 US all that time ago, which just seems like a lot for knee guards. I've seen people charging as much as $1,000 for these in post-COVID car life now. Please don't pay that much money. I really think it's just the fact that the branding looks so good and is so prominently visible to the driver that makes these somewhat desirable. I couldn't find any decent ones in the auctions, but I did find this really good genuine OEM one for sale on eBay, but it's nearly 500 bucks. Isn't a complete set, just the left knee center console. Is that really what these cost? If he's the only one with one for sale, I guess they cost whatever he wants. Nuts. The problem is, they should probably go in D tier, but I'm a sucker for Ralliart stuff, and it's branded so heavily, it's more interesting than my Skyline knee guards. So, up one spot to C tier. And part number 3, So if you cover something as bizarre as heavily branded knee rests on a car like the Lancer Evo, I have to follow it up with something more just standard cool. I think I counted about 9 different carbon fiber and carbon look goodies available as options on the Evo 6 as part of the Ralliart options. I'll start with my favourite of the carbon fiber parts, the rear wing blade. The Evo 6 has, I think, my favourite Evo spoiler. That's a big call. I'm not sure I even agree with myself on that one, but it's definitely up there. I love how it's more of a true double-decker spoiler in comparison to, say, the Evo 5. Tough call. But this part we are looking at here is a carbon fiber OEM blade that replaces the standard insert. So this was made as a limited edition from the factory. So if you have this, hang on to it. And it actually reads as replaces the standard part for installation. I'm going to assume it's not the whole wing because the adjustable blade part of JDM spoilers are usually always replaceable. An owner will have to post confirmation on this in the comments to let us know, but you can see how that it's not fixed. The reason I'm questioning it is usually the adjustable OEM JDM wings have end caps that you can loosen and adjust some screws. Interesting piece of useless trivia that really makes me question Mitsubishi wings is the Evo 8 doesn't have an adjustable spoiler, but Mitsubishi actually talks about adjusting the different angles in the brochure like it previously had done with their cars. So they obviously intended for the wing to be adjustable, or someone did some dodgy copy and pasting without proofreading before releasing the manual to your glove box. A bit like me using the Evo 9 brochure on screen now instead of the 8, needed an extra proofread. So what did it cost? 155,000 yen or $1,000 US, which is a lot for 1999. So maybe you did get a whole new spoiler. It actually does read as a lightweight focused carbon rear wing and air outlet. So maybe it included the next carbon part, the air outlet, in the pricing, even though it still lists the pricing here. I need a time machine and a Mitsubishi rep to talk to at the dealership on this one. There's a lot of ways to identify an Evo 6, like the fog lights and air inlet are swapped around, but another one is by this vent next to the wheel. Everything was functional on the Evos, but in classic Japanese brochure fashion, it either gives you pages of information on one tiny part, or it doesn't make the cut and it translates with pretty much nothing. Outlet is all we got here, so I guess we know air's going out, but it's carbon fiber OEM, so why not? But what's not carbon fiber, probably, is this here. Carbon aero garnish, 30,000 yen, and then in the green is the installation cost. For the B pillar, makes no mention of it being fake, but I bought my garnish from Nismo and it was fake, or as they call it, carbon look garnish, using the same terminology as Mitsubishi. I was pretty disappointed. I don't know what I was expecting, but I thought it would be like the plastic cover for the B pillar was replaceable or something, but $200 US in 1999, surely that's real. And it also mentions it can't be installed with the window visor option. So for the interior, they did some carbon look style stuff as well, and still use real carbon fiber where they could, like the gear knob. So for the interior, there was the carbon look center dash for 10,000 yen, which was around your air conditioning control panel, I guess you could call it, and a carbon look accent panel or cluster for 9,000 yen, which looks really good. I had this same option in my VR4 manual twin turbo Galant. Even though it's not real carbon fiber, it looks so much better than the plastic. And just knowing it's JDM spec is kind of cool. So next to these carbon look stuff, there was also these 2 gauges that I just wanted to mention. The column meter for 38,000 yen, which is a turbo boost gauge on your driver's A pillar, an OEM turbo boost gauge. Or the sports meter kit for 60,000 yen, which included a voltmeter and temperature gauge as well as your turbo boost, which couldn't be optioned with an upgraded sound system as it went in the opening slot here, which are all really nice dress up items. But back to real carbon fiber with the shifter and brake grip, justifiably expensive, being made of wet carbon fiber and stainless steel. Epic, absolutely epic. How weird is it to think they're not that much more expensive than the knee rest pads for stainless steel and carbon fiber? And then the last one of the carbon goodies, there was an option to swap out your Evo strut tower braces with carbon fiber bracing. So you can see these 2 are your standard optional upgrades, costing for both the front and the rear 65,000 yen. And what's interesting about these is that if you had the GSR Evo, not the RS Evo, then you would still have the interior trim here, whereas the RS has the trim stripped out, and it's manufacturer recommended to cut the trim to install it, which might not sound that weird when you're thinking about aftermarket parts, but remember this is OEM, and usually OEM parts are designed into the manufacturing process to keep everything looking clean for the car, right? I just found that interesting. And you could also upgrade them to carbon fiber. Nice job, Mitsubishi. Which, along with a whole lot of upgrades already structurally to the Evo, just to name a few of these, as Mitsubishi calls them, high rigidity body reinforcement points in the windshield joints, front and back in all 4 corners, rear shelf, back plate behind the seats, strut towers, in the actual body as well as the bars. All of this goes into more detail in the Tommy Mäkinen brochure, which I could cover in full length video if you like. Subscribe button is down here. Like, you may have seen this Tommy Mäkinen interior before, but what about the stripped out RS version? And these headlights? I've never seen them. JDM dealer options. So the carbon fiber strut tower bars, designed for strength with minimal weight gain, cost nearly double the cost of the standard upgrades, which you could expect at 110,000 yen, or about 750 US. So before moving on, what would it cost if you bought everything I just mentioned? Like the whole carbon goodies package, including installation, about 450,000 yen, which is $3,000 US in 1999. A lot of money, but a lot of parts. Ranking the carbon fiber stuff, what's my own personal opinions about it? The more carbon fiber, the better. It's a staple of 90s JDM, right? It might not have the shock factor that other parts and options have, or the performance benefits per dollar of some other parts, but these are the kind of upgrades that add the finishing touches cosmetically to either a full custom build or as stock as a rock OEM icon. You can go either way with these. So for that reason, I'm putting them in at A tier. Totally unrelated to carbon fiber, but on the topic of Evo 6s or 6.5s, I found these perfect Ralliart Enkeis up for auction. Why they look so familiar? They're the standard option chosen for the Tommy Mäkinen edition. I feel like a broken record saying that these are my favorite wheels. I think I just love every iconic JDM wheel. Mitsubishi, Enkei, Ralliart, TME, what more do you need? Majorly sidetracked, but just over $2,000 US for the buy now price. And they're listed as unused. Next up, we have a subscriber requested part that I mentioned earlier, gold badging. Here's a picture of Jamie's R33 that he sent in that had some genuine Nissan options from the hard image catalogue. The question I had, did the R32 Skyline have gold badging? Are they genuine? I didn't realise how many cars had the gold badging as dress-up options in the catalogues until I started properly searching around for them. I guess, again, one of those options that just no one bought. Looking at the 32 first, and you can see the ones I mentioned earlier next to the OEM Electroluminescent look good as a front emblem and side GT badge, with the front one matching Jamie's 32. But when going to the end of the brochure and looking, you can see the rear set with pretty much options for every type of R32. GTST, GTS25, Type M, Type S. A lot of it is there, even models I haven't heard of. Especially when looking up above, these are the sticker packages you could get with the gold badging. I like how they're advertised with the blueprint style, it's satisfying. So what do these mean? Nothing really, more than just what a badge normally means. But it does give clues to the original buyer at new purchasing parts from the dress up catalogue. So if you have some, maybe keep a lookout for anything else unusual on your car, because it may be OEM. So the R34 also had them. I had them on one of my, sadly long gone now, R34 GTR V-Specs, but they had degraded, which was disappointing. I never recoded them because they still looked good enough, but this brochure is another one I have to go through at some point, like these here. Try and guess what these are. Subi owners are thinking, I know what they are. A Nismo intercooler water spray cooling kit. I'll go more into it in another video, but basically a factory kit that cools the intercooler and drops intake air temperature by literally spraying water into it. Pretty neat design. But this is what I mean by keep an eye out for some other weird parts if you have gold badging, because that's your first clue that the buyer was looking at the dress up catalogues. Another example of that is looking at the 34 non-GTR brochure. Next to it we can spot the eyelid options, fog lamps, an adjustable sound exhaust system, let that sink in. And unique to the GTT, Nismo rays. Nice. The actual badging looks so much better as gold, especially the front grille bonnet gold S, perfect. And the way the G&T is even outlined gold, great attention to detail. On the topic of attention to detail, this up here, look at this translate fail. To serrate an even bolder shape and style. This was obviously meant to be create. And this actually happens quite regularly in a lot of the old brochures because it was just a lot more difficult to accurately translate in the 90s. And they often use a lot of English words as loan words in the JDM brochures, which can sometimes just translate a little bit wonky. So while I was looking at these, I noticed something I had no idea what it was on the R33 GTR. They showcase the gold badge inside the front cover with the gold and carbon dress up in the front and rear, and then a whole bunch of things labelled Navan, like Navan, even gold badging. Never heard of it or noticed it anywhere. Maybe I've just totally missed the train here, but help me out if you know. So rear visor screen, if you look really closer here, an embossed spoiler, this looks like. And then check out these seats. They look like regular Recaros until you notice, again, the Navan badging. And these cost $1,500 US each, new in the 90s. And the weirdest part is, it also has here a disclaimer saying not suitable for the GTR. And then these wheels here, does anyone recognize them? Because I sure don't. $2,000 for the set and not suitable for the GTT as well as the GTR. I'm not sure what I think of them. I like the badging, but they're very bubbly. I'd have to see them on a car to make my mind up. And then this gear knob with a thumb hole. Why? This is a recipe for a disaster if you have a crash. But they clearly thought they were onto something here because they made it for both auto and manual. There's just so much to unpack here. I'm gonna have to revisit it. So here's the gold badging, GT Skyline, Nissan, some decals, Navan included. But check this out, the R33 Electroluminescent glow badging that I found earlier in the auctions. I would not have found this if I wasn't looking directly underneath. Why not sell it on a black car, right? So much easier to see. So there was a 4-door and a 2-door option for this. Honestly, this is insane that Nissan, or I guess Navan maybe, went to this much effort, because how many of these parts do we actually think sold to the public? I wonder if they ever manufactured parts and options that never made it to the vehicle. I just have to unpack this at some point. But yeah, staying on the topic of gold badging, being a gateway to potentially some bizarre parts, on the Pulsar and Primera, I don't know how many times I've said I need to make a GTiR video, but there is just endless material on this car, between Nissan mods, Nismo performance mods, Pulsar, Autech, and then just some of the totally random things I'm scrolling through here. It's just never ending. And just before we move on, I don't think it's unique just to Nissan, because in the Supra, looking at the Mark IV Supra, next to the active aerodynamic front lip we looked at in one of my last videos, again, gold badging. It must be more common in brochures than people actually purchasing it. And if you like this kind of content, I've been sorting my videos a bit now that I've got a few videos up, and put all the parts, options, style content into one playlist that can be navigated. I've never really been a playlist kind of person when browsing YouTube myself, but I have a few times. So I've made the parts and options videos into what I'm calling the brochure vault. Could I find any for sale? Yes and no. I didn't really know what I was looking for, to be perfectly honest, even with the brochures alongside. How do you identify what's genuine OEM? Are they different sizes or just a color change? I could have sworn mine were a different size, but I can't remember. It's been a while since I've owned that car. And where to rank these? I mean, straight up, this one's pretty clear, right? I reckon you could describe them as interesting, not really that many pros or cons other than it's just different. I think them being in a lot of dress-up catalogs says it all. A big clue to maybe some extra OEM parts you didn't know you had. B tier. So next up, part number 1. One of the weirdest options, cars, I don't even know what to call it, I have ever come across, the Hello Kitty clock. And what did it come in? The 64 horsepower, 5-speed manual, turbocharged, 660cc Kei car you drove back in Gran Turismo 2 that you spent countless credits trying to fix the 0 to 60 time of 22 seconds if you bought the NA model. The JDM Daihatsu Move didn't stop with the custom model. It also had an entire edition dedicated to Hello Kitty. You can even find in their database the car branded as Daihatsu Move Hello Kitty, with my favorite pick, the Hello Kitty clock, as an option that comes as part of the Hello Kitty package. In one of the most wildest catalogs, you can find endless bizarre options. In this section, I'm going to show you the Daihatsu Hello Kitty package. And remembering, this isn't aftermarket. This is Daihatsu's genuine optional accessories brochure. You can see down here, Daihatsu in katakana, "We do compact," their slogan, and with Sanrio Hello Kitty just above it. I would just love to know how this collaboration happened. Like, did Daihatsu contact Hello Kitty? Was it the other way around? A tiny box-shaped car with a full-blown Hello Kitty experience, because nothing says JDM Kei Car culture like a car covered in Sanrio branding. A cartoon cat with no mouth staring at you every time you check the time. And this wasn't just a clock. Daihatsu went all in: seats, cushions, umbrella, mats, even Hello Kitty door lock knobs. Let's take a step back so we can fully understand this car. Oh, the aero body kit. What's actually going on here?
Or worst. New Move Aero Down Custom.
Yeah, I got nothing out of that. So that was the Aero Down custom body kit. Don't be fooled by the name custom. It's still OEM Daihatsu. Pulling up the brochure afterwards so you can see what I mean. Look how many different body kit options you could get for the JDM Move. The different body kits that were available on this car as OEM, man oh man. Looking at this first one, American Metal. I thought it was this body kit with the option of these headlights, Close, but not quite. But check this out in more detail. This body kit for the Daihatsu Move in blueprint style. The diagram down here shows your American metal body kit with new front bumper, grille, side skirts, rear bumper, LED tail lights, spoiler, chrome wheels, decal package, a bunch of other stuff and other choices like these headlights, also with an option in black, all for the price of an amount that I really didn't want to add up because there's too many parts, but I did anyway. Remembering this is the cost 25 years ago and without installation. $4,000 US. I might add these body kits into a future video and do a comparison of them all, because even if you're not into Kei cars, it's still mad. Back to the Hello Kitty package, and I'll sort of skip through the ones that aren't that interesting, but I'll still read them out so you know what they are. This is the wind visor for 18,000 yen, or about 150 bucks US. Then we have the Hello Kitty umbrella case, $25, which attaches to your B pillar. This reminds me of Mini Godzilla, the Pulsar GTiR's built-in OEM umbrella into the door from one of my other parts and options videos. Japan had some crazy options. Moving down here, your vehicle inspection certificate holder, in of course, Hello Kitty. The mats, again, you guessed it, Hello Kitty. You could even get your car keys OEM Daihatsu JDM Hello Kitty. This little door lock here, it's everywhere. But it's also not like the whole optional brochure was like this. We can see this optional part is number 236, which gives you an idea of how crazy and extensive the list of options were for the Move. But dialing back to part number 85 in the driver's wood grain section, and you can see these beautifully crafted options, brushed aluminium here. This gear knob looks nice. It's Nardi. Wrap your head around that. Nardi is in the JDM spec Daihatsu Moves brochure. Nardi has collaborated with some massive JDM icons. RX-7s, Tomikaras, Miatas, Evos, lots of cars. Heaps of racing gear as well. My favourite of their stuff is probably their wood grain steering wheels. I did mention the Gara 4 in one of my other recent videos briefly. I should cover it fully. Another one here for sale in the auctions. I love the gloss over the wood grain. This would look incredible on like an old Kenmeri or Toyota 2000 GT or something. This also popped up. I know nothing about it. At first glance, it almost looks broken. The cost of this to buy now, no auction, 1.1 million yen. That's a $7,000 steering wheel. It's even got the box that it came in. I love the wood grain. This would look incredible. Come on, dude, you can't upload a photo that bad if you want $7,000. Wow. So is that the car that it came in? Does anyone know what this is? So I had to re-record this bit. I was looking on Motor Trend. This looks like it was an old vintage Le Mans car. Wouldn't having the seat over to the side totally ruin the weight distribution? And there it is peeping through the steering wheel. I wonder why it's separated from the car. If you know anything interesting about this car, let us know in the comments. This is a new one for me. I also found this in the auctions, a Hello Kitty face for your gauges. It's not in this accessories brochure that we're looking at. It makes me wonder if there's a second Kei Car brochure out there to the Daihatsu Move. But coming back to the Move, and check out this turbo gauge, because remembering, there is the turbo all-drive manual model available with this car. The main reason I was just pointing out these few parts is I don't want you to make the mistake of thinking the Daihatsu Move is just a gimmick. But yes, it does have some comical gimmicks as well, like the Hello Kitty pillow for 40 bucks, the car seats, and even a car cover. Looking real close, there it is. And the Hello Kitty clock there, staring at you every time you check the time. $100 US, cost even more on the Daihatsu Custom Move for some reason, and you could actually get an optional extra to the optional extra compatible with the Hello Kitty model. This gold clock is a clock swap. I don't know what else to call it. So random. I guess if you bought the Hello Kitty package and decided it wasn't for you, Hello Kitty staring at you in silent judgment as you question your life choices while stuck in traffic, at least you can swap the clock out. Was this necessary? Not at all. Did it sell? Yeah, they're out there if you hunt for them. Japan has never been afraid of full commitment, and this package proved it. They didn't just slap a couple of decals or stickers on the dash and call it a day. They made it official. We can give this B tier mod for sure. 100% all in on memorability on this one. Thanks for watching, legends. See you next time.